many families are not giving enough throughout life who already have a successful retirement plan. And this goes against a lot of conventional wisdom in our own security. A lot of people think, hey, I'm going to hold on to this money for as long as possible to make sure I'm okay. Unfortunately, a lot of those people are overestimating the amount that they'll need, and they're creating future problems for their heirs. There is a better way. By not giving, there are 3 missed opportunities here. One is taxation issues, unprepared heirs, and then the third one is missing opportunities throughout life. If you're new here, I'm Elliot Apple, founder and financial planner of Kindness Financial Planning, and I help kind people retire to their ideal life. And I'm really excited to talk about today's topic with you. So let's dive into those 3 issues and what it means if you already have a successful retirement plan. First, I'm going to show you this retirement plan and what that means in terms of creating income for heirs later on. And then we'll go on to how can you do this better throughout your life. So if we look at this retirement plan here, this is Susie and Gabe's sample. We can see that they've done a good job saving for retirement. They've got nearly $2 million combined between their 2 IRAs, and they've got a joint brokerage account. And I'm going to just jump over here to show you that they have a really successful plan. They're not saving enough, or they've saved too much throughout life, and they're not spending enough relative to their assets. You can see they have a 99% probability of success, and I have some clients that want exactly that in life. And unfortunately, the highest percentage possible is not the best place to be because it means you're not spending enough, or said another way right now, you're not giving enough throughout life if you're already meeting your spending goals. And we can see how this shows up at the end of life for them. If we look at their account balances later in life and look at, let's go out to their 80s or 90s here and see with their traditional IRA, what do they have in that account right now? Maybe it's $3 to $3.5 million, depending on when they pass away. What does that mean in terms of the tax hit for them in particular? And let's assume that they have 2 children, and this would be compounded even further of a problem if they only had 1 child. But let's go over here to the inherited IRA and just look at the taxation. Let's say that for easy math, the account value is $3 million. It's split between 2 children, and that's $1.5 million. Now, for a moment, let's say that they evenly distribute that. It does not grow at all. Very unrealistic assumptions, but I just want this to be easy math for us. If they take out $150,000 per year, and let's assume that they're still earning an income. Let's say that they're a high earner themselves and they're earning $300,000 as well. We can see that their total income is going to come to $450,000. If they're married filing jointly, that's maybe the 32% tax bracket, depending on deductions, or it's 35% of single. And we can see where those tax rates fall today in 2026. And you can see that 32% right there, likely falling there. And then if single, that 35% bracket. So even that just pure $150,000 distribution, if they're married filing jointly, will likely automatically put them in that 22% tax bracket. If they're single, probably already raising them in the 24%, not taking into account any of their other income sources, any potential inheritance. If they're older, Social Security, pensions, their own R&Ds. So depending on when they receive it, this may push them into a fairly high bracket. So we can see that they've done a good job saving, but they have not given enough money relative to what they have. And that's a problem as they start to receive these distributions. So another strategy for them might be to do Roth conversions. That might be a really simple thing that if they're in a lower tax bracket and they know their heirs maybe are going to be in that 32 or 35% tax bracket, they may actually want to do some Roth conversions at a lower rate if they're able to. That way their heirs can take it out tax-free and it's less of a tax burden on them. This is where it gets really important to do a lifetime tax projection for yourself, but then also consider, if I've done a good job saving, I have a lot of money pre-tax, what is that going to do for my heirs in their tax situation? Taxes aside, there's also the fact that receiving money earlier in life can be really helpful. You can imagine if someone passes away at age 90, and let's say that their kid is in their 60s and they're retired themselves and they receive a lump sum of $1.5 million or more, what does that do to their lifestyle and what they can do at this point? Arguably, not a lot. It opens up new opportunities, but likely they've become accustomed to a certain way of living, and that's just extra money that they're unlikely to spend. Now, maybe they turn around and do a better job gifting to that next generation. That could be something. But I would argue that if the people were able to give that money earlier in life, maybe when they're in their 40s or 50s, and they're stretched more so for money, whether that's housing payments, paying for their own kids, college, all of those different things, it can be more helpful to have that money sooner. So a lot of people try to wait until the end of life to give this money and think, oh, we'll just give it to them now. I don't want to make my kids lazy. Well, what does that mean for their quality of life and the choices that they've made? And arguably, receiving a lump sum is a lot more dangerous than annual gifting or some certain amount throughout life. you can imagine, hey, if you give your kid $10, $20, $30,000, whatever it is annually, and you see, hey, maybe they're not handling that in the best way, that can mean maybe different estate planning assumptions. Maybe you put into a trust for that person and have someone oversee that. If you think, hey, receiving $1.5 million is not the best thing, or $2 million from my heirs at once is going to lead to poor decisions, better to figure that out earlier probably rather than later in a big lump sum. It's similar to lottery winners and how a lot of them end up going broke because it's sudden money that they didn't have before. And that can create real problems for people who never had to manage that and either get hit with fear and don't know what to do or make poor decisions with that lump sum. And I alluded to it earlier, but I also just want to reiterate that having that money sooner can be really helpful. Whether that is paying for college for a grandkid, or it's helping someone out so they can go travel or work less, take less of a stressful job, all of those things can help that quality of life. And it's not necessarily making your children lazy, it is allowing them better quality of life. What is the point of all this money if you're not actually using it for a better quality of life, right? If we have this money in a bank account or a brokerage account, whatever it is, and it's not connected to anything, what is that doing for you and your family? What is the point of earning all that and not using it and just passing it down generation after generation? Obviously, we want to create productive citizens in society, but I think that there are ways to do that while still giving throughout life as opposed to one big lump sum at the end of it. I talked earlier about taxes and leaving heirs unprepared, if you're trying to receive millions of dollars, but those missed opportunities are really critical. And I think that's where you can start to design different strategies around how do I actually want to set them up so they're ready for this large inheritance. And that's where you can come up with some sort of gifting plan. Maybe you're gifting up to the annual exclusion amount, just to your kid, or maybe to your kid and their partner. You're including them on your financial decisions as well to help bring them into the fold to understand what does it mean to have this much money and how do I use this responsibly. Maybe you do your own charitable giving and you bring them into the conversation and you create a family charitable giving plan. I've seen that be really successful within families to help introduce this concept of, hey, we want to give some money away while still spending it. Teaching and having conversations around money, I think personally, is a very important thing throughout life. I know a lot of families are hush-hush about it. And I think that's a big problem because what ends up usually happening is a large lump sum, maybe the most that they've ever had, is either inherited at the end of life and they don't know what to do with it. And it presents a potential conflict of interest, animosity within a marriage if that money is not being used for the couple and maybe one person wants it just for themselves. Or we're adding that on top of what someone else has already saved. And it's not adding a huge quality of life to theirs. So having that educational piece and bringing it in sooner can be really, really a tremendous value for those who receive that conversation earlier in life. A lot of families want to leave these money decisions stay in life. They don't want to approach it because it might be awkward. It might lead to strange conversations. But my argument to that is better to figure that out while you're alive than have it blow up when you die. Money should reduce stress and create opportunities and make life better. And a lot of these conversations, if we're just allowing this money to accumulate for as long as possible, that's not what's going to end up happening. So if you're a parent or a grandparent and you haven't had that money conversation with your kid or your grandkids, why not try starting it today? You might be surprised what could happen. Thanks for listening.